Richard Cole had $2 billion in the bank. But on the day his father died, he made a decision that would destroy everything he thought he knew about his own family. He decided to become poor. On purpose. Not because he had to, but because he needed to know the truth. Richard Cole was 45 years old, CEO of Cole Industries, one of the largest real estate empires on the East Coast. He lived in a 12,000 square foot mansion in Connecticut. He drove a car most people only saw in magazines, and every single person around him called him family. His wife, Elena, beautiful, elegant, always at his side at every gala, every dinner, every photo. His son, Marcus, 26, working under him at the company, always talking about when it would all be his. And his daughter, Sophie, 23, quiet, distant, the one who never came to the parties, the one Richard had almost given up on understanding. For years, Richard believed his family loved him. Then his father passed away, and everything changed. At the funeral, Richard's father's lawyer handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a single handwritten letter. It read, "Son, I built this empire from nothing, and when I had nothing, I learned exactly who stood beside me, and who only stood beside my money. I want you to know that truth too. Before you hand this empire to anyone, test them. Money blinds people, even family, especially family." Richard sat alone that night, staring at the letter for hours. By morning, he had made his decision. Richard called an emergency meeting with his lawyer, not to change his will, but to disappear. He quietly moved his real fortune into a private offshore trust. Then he told his family a devastating lie. A scandal had wiped out the company, the mansion, the cars, the credit cards, gone, frozen, seized within 1 week. He watched his family answer his father's question for him. Elena filed for divorce. Irreconcilable differences, her lawyer called it. She didn't even look him in the eye when she signed the papers. Marcus stood in the half-empty house and said, "You've embarrassed this family, Dad. I can't be associated with this." Then he packed his bags and left. Richard moved into a small rented one-room apartment on the other side of town, alone. For the first time in 20 years, completely alone. 3 days later, there was a knock at his door. It was Sophie, carrying 2 bags of groceries. "I heard what happened," she said quietly. "I don't care about the money, Dad. I didn't want you to be alone." Richard almost told her the truth right there, but something stopped him. He needed to see how far this would go. Over the following weeks, Sophie visited every single day. She got a night job at a small diner to help cover his rent. She never once asked about the company, never once asked when the money would come back. She just showed up, again and again and again. Richard, using a fake name and a plain grey uniform, took a job as a janitor inside his own company. Nobody recognized him. Not the security guards, not the executives, not even Marcus, who now sat in Richard's old office, temporarily running things. Every night Richard quietly mopped the halls of the empire he built and listened. He watched Marcus make reckless decisions, blame junior employees for his own mistakes, and take credit for a project he never touched. One evening, mopping outside the executive office, Richard heard Marcus on the phone. "Once the estate clears probate, the company's mine. Dad's out of the picture now. This is finally happening." Richard stood frozen in the hallway, mop in hand, and felt something in his chest quietly break. A few nights later, he overheard Elena on a call with a friend. "Honestly, I don't think I ever loved the man. I loved the life. There's a difference." Richard didn't cry. He just nodded slowly to himself and kept mopping. Weeks passed. Richard watched Sophie exhausted after double shifts at the diner, still showing up at his apartment with soup, still asking nothing in return. One night she fell asleep on his small couch, still in her diner uniform, an unopened paycheck in her hand, money she was planning to give to him. Richard sat across from her in the dark apartment and finally understood exactly what his father meant. The truth doesn't come from what people say when things are good. It comes from what they do when they think there's nothing left to gain. On his 46th birthday, Richard called everyone to the old family estate. Ilana, Marcus, Sophie, and the company's board of directors. He stood at the head of the table and removed his glasses. "I have a confession," he said. "I never lost the company. I never lost the money. I lost something else these past few months, and I found it again." Gasps around the table. Marcus went pale. Richard turned to Marcus first. "You had every opportunity to lead with integrity. Instead, you took credit for other people's work and waited for me to disappear completely." He slid a folder across the table. "This is a severance package. Go build something of your own. Earn it this time." He turned to Elena. "You didn't marry me. You married my bank account. I hope it was worth it." He placed the actual divorce papers in front of her. Signed. Then he turned to Sophie, who was crying quietly, confused and overwhelmed. "You showed up every single day with nothing to gain," Richard said, his voice breaking. "You worked double shifts to take care of a father you thought had nothing left to give you." He placed the deed to Coal Industries in front of her. "This is yours now." Sophie pushed the folder back across the table, shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't want the company, Dad," she whispered. "I just wanted you." Richard smiled, the first real smile in months. "That," he said softly, "is exactly why you deserve it. Money doesn't reveal someone's character. Losing it does."